Driver, start your engine! In the beginning, stock cars outran the police to deliver the hooch to our ancestors. So sweet. Are you ready for a trip down victory lane, where Richard Petty's winnings were insane and Dale Earnhardt put everyone to shame? Canadian Junior Handley is in the Hall of Fame. Live from Haldeman County, it's time for the Driver in Deep podcast. Are you ready?
Welcome everyone to the Driver in Deep podcast, brought to you by wingnuts.sports.com. Well, Alex, this episode's going to be a little bit of a throwback.
We haven't been doing this for very long, Mark, as you know, but I guess you're right.
Well, what I mean by that is, like our first ever episode, it's just going to be me and you, with the exception that today we're going to have Mark Rinaldi of Brighton Speedway on the phone for a few minutes to chat about Brighton and also a group called the Ontario Motorsports Promoters.
Yes, looking forward to catching up with Mark. And we just wanted to look back at all the list of guests that we've had on so far, talked a little bit about some things that maybe we've learned and some things we're looking forward to moving forward.
Yeah, we'll talk about looking back. Your buddy Kevin has kind of disappeared. You know, he used to be commenting all the time about our podcast and sending you notes, but I don't think we've heard from him for at least a month or so now.
Yeah, it seems like forever. One thing, maybe you're not doing the beer, the beer snaps when you used to, I think that used to probably entice him to listen. But anyways, now that you mention it, I don't think we've heard of him from him since the Edmonton Oilers got swept in the first round of the NHL playoffs. Or maybe we've just bored the hell out of him. Now, I'm a little surprised also, but I also know he started a new job recently, and it's trailer park season. I don't mean that in a trailer park sense, but they have a seasonal camp ground with a nice trailer, so I'm sure him and his wife Renata are spending time enjoying life.
Well, hopefully. And just so you know, Kevin, it's 2:00 in the afternoon, and that's probably why I'm not cracking those beers right now. But anyway, many of our listeners likely know, Alex, that you're the general manager of Jukasa Motor Speedway, and you recently announced the cancellation of the 2021 season. Can you explain how you and your stakeholders came to that decision?
Yeah, for sure. There's been a lot of stories. I guess people like to create things that aren't real true, but ultimately it's really no different for us than it was last year. In 2020, we postponed our season because with any sort of restrictions, we're a special event-oriented facility, and we can't run big events when we're restricted on potential fan base, campers, etc. So last year we postponed. 99% of our great fans said, just carry the stuff over, our tickets, our camping passes, seasons passes, carry it over to 2021. Well, here we are again. Of course, we're in a little better shape just recently with the pandemic, but there's just no way we can do our regular scheduled events. And we talked about it, and really the best way is to not postpone it again, but to cancel it so that we could refund all the people their money, not knowing whether they're going to be able to replicate the same schedule for 2022, where we're going to go with that. So really, it's just the best way for us to clean the slate on the admin side. Otherwise, it was going to get really messy, and just, prepare for 2022.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's not the decision that, the racers or the fans or your staff or anybody was looking to hearing, but it does sound like it was the correct decision. And let's hope things keep rolling, for the good in 2022. And speaking of things rolling, it seems like, at least for Ontario, things are finally coming around as far as businesses reopening, slowly, mind you. And included in the reopening plan is motorsports facilities. And as we know, it's been great, but hard watching the racing from the U.S., whether it's NASCAR or pavement or in dirt short tracks. But this past weekend, Flamborough Speedway opened, albeit without fans. But the races were streamed live on GeForce TV, so, that's a start. And at least until we get to phase 2 of reopening, which seems promising, to have some percentage of fans, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. We'll talk a little bit with Mark about just that, but things are looking up last weekend. I'm going to just name a few off the top of my head. Sunset Speedway open, Southern Ontario Motor Speedway open with the all new refurbished facility. And others, like I said, I'm sure I'm going to miss, but this past weekend and there's more opening this weekend. I know there's people out in the East Coast that have opened. The West Coast guys are starting to get going. Quebec is doing some racing. So some have some fans, some don't. Down the road a little bit here, the APC Late Model Series, along with the new Quick Super Stock Series, will kick off at Delaware Speedway on July 2nd. The NASCAR Pinty Series will get underway at Sunset Speedway on August 1st. So it's all coming slowly, but I think things are looking up.
Yeah, I see there was also a road course event last weekend at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. I feel this is all a good indication of great things to come. Or at least that's the way I'm choosing to look at it. And, as we crawl out of this mess.
I agree. And there's no better person to talk to about reopening here in Ontario than Mark Rinaldi. Mark and his wife Ange own Brighton Speedway, which is a dirt track, eastern part of the province. And Mark is also the lead of the Ontario Motorsports Promoters Group. And for those that don't know, we're a group of around 35 motorsports facilities in Ontario that have been trying to work with the province on safe reopening for all of us. Mark and his dad Lou, who is a former MPP, which is a good connection for us, and also former owner of Brighton Speedway, have done some great things for us. So welcome to Driver in Deep, Mark.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, Mark. This is Mark. So I'm sure we're not going to get confused with each other's names here. Thanks for joining us. Mark, can you briefly outline to our listeners what the Ontario Motorsports Promoters Group is and how it all came about?
Yeah. So I guess it'd be last April. We were all out of the tracks were talking to each other, trying to decide what we were going to do for opening up. For none of us really knew what we were going to be allowed to do. So finally, I talking to JP and promoters in the eastern end of the province, we got talking, and then I sent out an email to a larger group of promoters, and Alex actually responded back right away, and we all decided that it would be better if we had a coordinated effort when approaching the government versus a one-on-one. So, shortly after that, we started sending out emails, we started putting a plan together, we started approaching the government, and pretty quickly, we were actually starting to be mentioned in press releases and rules and guidelines around reopening last year. So it came together pretty quickly, and I think it was effective, just the fact that the government actually recognized motorsport.
Yeah, I had mentioned that to Mark McSporran here also, and the fact that I think one of the biggest things that we've gained out of all of this is the fact that we are recognized. We're in the government's different department heads' minds now as an industry. A portion of us in the group, me included with you, Mark, and some other racetracks or facilities, decided to get an economic impact study done, and we all split on it. And we had a great fella your way that put it together for us from Peterborough. We sent him all a whole bunch of information, and I think he was kind of blown away at the reach and the numbers that we sent him. I think that was what he indicated to us in our conversations with him. But I know there's been, a little bit of hope for sure. It's been a long battle. I'll let you speak to that, but we definitely have made some strides, and we're, not getting listened to as quickly or as often as we'd like, but definitely they do, respond to your emails, sometimes slowly, but, and also in the past 3 to 5 days, we've been talking, and there's been some correspondence, regarding maybe some development that's going to hopefully open up here, prior to phase 2. Hopefully we're going to get some information in advance, and I'll let you talk about that.
Yeah. So, like you said, it's been a bit of a slow wheel. Dealing with government is always a bit of a challenge, and it's been frustrating at times, but, I would say there's light at the end of the tunnel. I've been informed that should find out later this week what we're going to be allowed to step to. I've been guaranteed spectators will be allowed back at step 2. That number is. So that's what we're waiting for. That's a big number for a lot of promoters, so that they can kind of finalize the plans on how they want to try to salvage as much of a season as possible. We're kind of hoping for 35 to 50% step 2, and then more when we get to step 3 of reopening. But ultimately it's going to be something in their court, and they're going to come down and give us a number, and we're going to have to work with it. But I believe tentatively there's been a meeting scheduled for stakeholders of sort of tourism industry, and been told that we're invited to the meeting. However, I haven't got an actual meeting invite yet. But we're hoping that we're hoping to find out some good news on Thursday that we can use going forward, and then allowing all the promoters to, like I said, finalize their plans on the upcoming season.
Yeah, I think that's great that you're helping out with all the racetracks here and trying to have a single voice with the government. And we've all had our experiences that with the government. I used to work for OLG for many years, so I do understand that there's some challenges there. And hopefully it all goes well and that you do find the clarity that you're looking for. Alex told me that the province said that they would give you all an update a day or two before phase 2 kicks in. And that sure doesn't really give anybody much time to get staff in place, food and drinks ordered, etc. But I can't help but to think that places like Canada's Wonderland must know in advance of that day or two before.
Yeah, no, and I'm pretty sure the big players do, and that's why we're really pushing, and that's why, I've had, both myself and my dad have had individual conversations with our MVP in the last week, and as well as the Ministry of Tourism, Heritage, Culture, Industry, and sort of just been really, really harping on, the knowing what we're going to be allowed to do is actually more important to knowing the exact date. We can ballpark a date, but if we just know, okay, it's going to be 30%, well, now we can start marking out our grandstands accordingly and start ordering food accordingly and start ordering, arranging staff accordingly. And just, the actual start date may be tentative, but at least we know what we're preparing for. We can start some of those preparations. So that's the key thing is knowing what we're going to be allowed to do. And then, hopefully it's going to be as early as July 2nd. But even if it did push off to July 9th, well, that's not the end of the world either, as long as we know what we can do. But like I said to him, it's my last conversations with him, I said it's going to be fairly disappointing and not really fair to promoters, fans, drivers, and everybody alone if we lose another week because none of us are prepared to go on the weekend of July 2nd or 3rd, just because they haven't told us what we can do or what we can't do. And I was sort of fairly vocal in saying that, it almost appears that the government's unorganized, and just doesn't have their information together. But I mean, at this point, they should be at that point. Like I said, we're not asking for a hard date for reopening yet. Yeah, we all want to open as soon as possible, but they should have a plan together with what step 2 is going to include. So, that's where I was then, updated that, okay, I should hear something this week. And, now I'm told that hopefully by Thursday we'll have an announcement and a meeting that I'm told, like I said, that I should be part of it. And, hopefully that comes true and I can update the rest of the promoters with what the plan's going to look like.
Well, hopefully that is the case and they do come through with that meeting like they had indicated. Great work, Mark, by you and your dad, of course. And I know I can speak on behalf of all track operators or motorsports facility operators that we really appreciate it. But before we let you go, man, we can't let you out here without speaking about your plan on when you're going to open and what's going on at Brighton Speedway this year.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'd like to say we have a plan in place. But, once again, it could vary depending on what announcements they send us or give us, right? So we we are running a no fans event this weekend, just to sort of kick things off and get the drivers back in the game of racing and coming to the track. And then we have events scheduled on July 3rd and July 10th. July 3rd is a Knights of Thunder, Pinty's Knights of Thunder event. Luckily, we don't know if we're going to be allowed to have fans there, but we've got enough sponsorship raised that we're able to make that happen, and that'll be aired live on GeForce TV. And then following that, we've got an event scheduled July 10th because we're hoping that at Blaze Point, that's when we're going to be allowed spectators. And we haven't made any plans past that, but, we're hoping that we can carry on with our season as scheduled. Obviously with some fine tuning and some tweaking, depending on what the provincial government allows us for capacities in step 2 and step 3. We're really hoping that we can have some of our bigger year-end events, but, obviously, those are affected by rules around camping and gatherings and whatever we're going to be allowed for spectators. So we're excited just to get races going again, get drivers back in the swing of racing. Me and Alex had these conversations last year that, one of the biggest worries was if we weren't allowed to open up at all last summer. And, if it dragged out this year too long, that, a lot of these guys got a lot of money invested, a lot of time invested, and, if they're not able to enjoy or use the sport or hobby that they love, then, maybe they're going to go get a camper or buy a cottage or buy a boat and find a new hobby that they can use, right? That doesn't have the restrictions in place that we've been subject to. So that was our big thing. That's why we held no fan events last year, was just to keep people active in the sport. We tried to televise as much as we can to keep our fans engaged. And, the response was good, and we don't seem to have lost many cars or the diehards. And hopefully that, going forward that stays true, and, we can keep a lot of people engaged in the sport that, we love so much, and, have made it been a lifetime for me of being involved in, So.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're so right, Mark. We are so blessed with our great fan bases, great competitors and their families and teams. But like us, it's a battle even for them. So yeah, I think with everybody getting started, a lot of people getting started last week, you this week and a bunch of others this week. I think that, and then, hopefully gradually going right into getting some of our fans back. I think it's a really good thing for us all. But I got to ask you, you kind of skirted around the July 2nd date a couple times, like it could be later. Did you hear something that I didn't?
No, I just, they haven't committed to the second, right? But I would say, I think today's numbers were under 250. The number of people in ICU are down. The number of people getting their second vaccinations are up. They would have to have a pretty big excuse as to why to extend it. It just, as you know, Alex, there's been many times where we thought something was going to go one way and then it went the other way, right? Like last year, there was no way I could even conceive of a hard cap, at a facility like mine or yours or Oswego or Peterborough. And, then they came out with that hard cap of 100 people that we fought and continued to fight all summer long. And we couldn't get them to budge on it, so. And we actually had I can't remember if you were on that meeting house, but we actually had a call the week before they put the 100 people hard cap in there. And, people from the Ministry of Tourism agreed with us that it absolutely made no sense.
Yeah, I was on that call with you.
They still went and did it. So, that's why I'm just hesitant, right? I'm hesitant to, say for sure we'll be in stage 2 by July 2nd, or to say that, we're going to be at a capacity base. Although I have been told that it is a percentage this time and not a hard cap. So let's keep our fingers crossed that they live up to their word and that, we get something that racetracks are able to work with that, makes it profitable again. It's one thing to keep tracks going just so that our sport can stay alive. But, if we want the tracks to stay alive, they need to make it too, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Mark, listen, we really do wish you the best. From my perspective, I really hope you get the news that everybody's looking for here, regarding the 2021 season. We really appreciate all the updates that you gave us here today and all the work that you've done behind the scenes.
Great. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Alex. I appreciate you guys bringing us on and letting us get the word out.
Thanks, Mark. Talk to you soon, bud.
Bye for now.
Talk to you later.
Mark's, like I'd said, he's done a lot of great work. His dad, Lou, understands the motorsports business. He's a former politician. Great combination. It's helped us a lot. I can tell you that his MPP, Mr. Pacini, has really been the strongest MPP out of all of our areas. You know, we have an MPP in Haldimand County, Haldimand Norfolk, who has 2 motorsports facilities in his backyard. And it takes me about 3 weeks for him to call me back, and it's usually his secretary. And he's really, to be honest with you, done absolutely nothing. And he knows Lou Rinaldi as a personal friend from being MPPs back in the day together, despite different parties. And, he's really been, no help at all.
Yeah. Well, that's unfortunate, but it is really good that you do have somebody that is listening to what all the racetracks have to say. So that's great that Mark has that relationship, and it sounds like he's doing the best work he can on behalf of all the tracks.
Absolutely. Well, you know, something else I thought about today, Mark, with this little bit of a different podcast without besides Mark, without a full podcast guest, is we don't talk a lot about the higher levels of NASCAR, but with, you know, how can we go without, like everybody else, mentioning the dominance of Kyle Larson this season? You know, Team Hendrick in general, but especially Kyle Larson.
He's been not great. He's been awesome, but it's not new. I mean, from what I understand, Kyle has dominated on dirt last season during his suspension in NASCAR, and in between Cup starts, he's still doing the same thing this year.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think that he won, in the past 2 weeks, I think his past 6 Cup races, he's got 3 seconds and 3 firsts. And I don't know, I'm just grasping, but I think, you know, in between all those, he's got about 6 or 8 dirt race feature wins as well. So it's crazy for sure. And another thing that kind of got me stoked this weekend was I wanted to give a quick shout out to the people at Nashville Super Speedway for the event they had last weekend at Trucks, Xfinity, and Cup. As you know, there had been a lot of work and a lot of discussion going on about bringing a Cup race back to the historic Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway, which is right smack dab in the middle of a neighborhood in town there in Nashville. And it's awesome. I've raced there. I've crew chief there. I've spotted there. I've raced at the Super Speedway with a Pro Challenge car, which is really cool. I lived in that area for 3 years or so I'm real familiar with it all. And I understand the push to get a Cup race back at the fairgrounds. I get it. There's a lot of past history there when Cup cars used to go there years ago. And there was times when they hadn't had a race, a lower tier NASCAR race or any other race at the Super Speedway out in Lebanon since 2010. And it's a concrete racetrack, and people would, when they stopped racing there, it's not, they were really, I think, gearing up for a Cup race. It never happened. And, it just kind of fell apart. But people always badmouth that racetrack, saying they should cap the tunnel off and fill it with water and have a bass tournament there. It's no good for racing that single groove. Well, the track got better all weekend. Every race I saw, there was side-by-side racing, 3 wide at times, 4 wide at times. They did a little bit of a rosin add to the concrete, which really shouldn't be even thought about as a surprise, because almost every single asphalt racetrack on the Cup circuit, they spray PJ1 down, which is, to me, I don't really get that whole thing. I think if you build a racetrack, you shouldn't have to mask it with something. But anyways, it looks to me that, in my opinion, they should just stay at the Super Speedway. It's so close to becoming, to being an incredible place. It's already there. I don't know. I just think that they showed themselves really well last week. And my opinion, that's where the focus should be.
I guess from my perspective, here where we are, the Hamilton Tiger Cats play right in the middle of a very large residential area as well. And I know the challenges that they've had here. And I'm not sure that the neighbors are ever going to stop complaining, just like here. And I see it as a continuous battle, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the huge battles is the people that live in the area. And, listen, as you know, they're not going to ever be quiet. And, I was waiting I didn't hear much about it. There were some traffic issues getting in and out of the speedway. And nobody said that much about it. And I think the reason being was because if you want to compare to the disaster it's going to be getting in and out of the fairground speedway on a big weekend like that, I'll tell you, it'll be a disaster in my opinion. But anyways, again, I'm not slighting the fairgrounds, man. I love that place. I just think that they've got a facility 30 minutes outside of town that's ready and showed this weekend that they can hold Cup, Truck, Xfinity, whatever, and put a hell of a show on.
Yeah. One other thing that I wanted to bring up since we're talking about NASCAR. Do you follow NASCAR Chasm on Twitter, at NASCAR Chasm?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, do you? I just recently discovered them, and they're hilarious. And I don't know if you saw some of the fake texts after Kyle Larson won this past weekend, but they're hilarious, and I thought I'd share a couple with you if you haven't seen them already.
I seen a brake rotor one. I didn't read them all, but I did see one for sure.
Yeah, well, brake rotor is one of the ones I have, and may as well just start with that. So the text comes from a brake rotor to Kyle Larson, and first thing it says is amazing performance, and Kyle responds, "Thanks, brake rotor. Pretty happy with our car right now. I feel like we can't be stopped." And of course, a brake rotor's response was, in capital letters, "If that was a joke directed at us, I say too soon, sir." So that was the first
brake
one.
rotor issues.
Yeah, and then another one from Pocono Raceway. "Congratulations, can't wait to see you next weekend." Kyle's response is, "Thanks, Pocono. I'm excited for it." And Pocono's response was, "Us too. We originally marketed it as NASCAR Cup Series doubleheader, but with your permission, we'd like to change it to a rare opportunity to watch the greatest drivers in the world lose to Kyle Larson twice in one weekend." But probably, the best one that I saw, and this is my guy, Chase Elliott. So this is from Kyle's teammate, Chase Elliott, and it just says, "Great win, Kyle." And Kyle responds, "Thanks, Chase. How was your day out there?" "Hello? Where did you go?" And he says, "Sorry, I was away from my phone." And he said, but you just texted great win, Kyle." And he said, "Yeah, I have my phone programmed to send that every Sunday evening at 5:45 p.m. now."
Oh, man. Yeah, that's some pretty funny stuff for sure. Well, listen, you got anything else you want to talk about?
You know what? I as a matter of fact, why don't we just get into a little bit of disc golf, if that's okay?
Oh, God, here we go.
Well, you know what? This weekend is the World Disc Golf Championships being held in Utah. Actually, round one is today, so it's not this weekend, it's this week. And all of the best disc golfers in the world are going to be there. Paul McBeth, who's probably the most famous disc golfer in the world right now. Simon Lizotte, who can just throw it a mile. Ricky Wysocki, who, is an unbelievable player as well. And probably the guy that's playing the best on tour right now is Eagle McMahon. I mean, and he's just a little guy, Alex. And when I say a little guy, he probably weighs $140, and he can throw that thing about 650, 700 feet. And I don't want to forget Canadian Thomas Gilbert. He's from the Toronto area, and he's one of the longest drivers on tour. And if you guys haven't checked out disc golf yet, I know Alex likes to make fun of me, but now he loves the sport. We were out this weekend again. This is a great time to check it out. Just go over to YouTube, search for the 2021 World Disc Golf Championships, and watch a few rounds and try to understand what they're doing out there. It really is amazing. These guys and girls they're awesome. They really are.
Yeah, all kidding aside, it's definitely a great sport. Like you said, we're out on the weekend. We had my son Tyler out with us, and I think after that I'm going to quit because I've golfed. I think I went out now, 10 times, and he's been out 3, and he's already throwing that thing about 3 times further than I can. But it was definitely fun, and yeah. I haven't even told you this one yet, buddy. But as you know, Sandy, my wife, likes to throw a few discs, and she's up to 4 or 5 of them now. I think that she's gathered up. And of course, I got to cart them around in my bag. So I had to go to Brantford yesterday. So I stopped by the disc golf store and I bought her own bag. Small bag, but surprised her with it when she got home last night from Toronto. And, now I don't have to cart her shit around. She can take her own water bottle.
Were you in the doghouse? Is that why you did
No,
that? Or you were just being nice?
It just, what that did is just prop the door open, man. It's not even close to being closed. So.
Well, a similar story. My wife, Joni, has been out a few times now and just thrown whatever disc I handed her. And we were at the True North disc golf store in Brantford as well. And yes, I did pick up a disc golf basket to practice. So I'm expecting you to get one anytime now.
Yeah, you got it bad, man.
Yeah. Well, while we were there though, Joni started looking at, they have 30,000 discs in stock there. So she started looking around and she picked out a really nice little fairway driver for her. And, she, that's her first disc she bought. And then we went out and played. So, I'm hoping that she enjoys it as well, because it's a great sport to get out there and just get some exercise and some fresh air.
Yeah, it is. You mentioned Tom Gilbert from Canada, and he actually plays once in a while at the course that we go to here in Haldimand County. So It's interesting to, not that we could ever play with him, but yeah, it's, and it's a sport that has been around for quite a while, but it definitely, like so many other things, I guess you could say, or sports or industries, during this pandemic, it's gone crazy. And which made me think about your boy there, Eagle McMahon, sponsored by Discmania.
Yeah.
And Discmania was a company that had all their discs made by other companies like Innova and Latitude and stuff. And they went on their own. Just goes to show you that, how much that sport's grown, that they've built their own plant in Sweden. And I seen a video where Eagle got his first prototype discs, and they're so good that everybody else might as well stay home this weekend, because according to the promo video, there's nothing else that can touch them. So it's over unless he breaks a leg or something.
I guess we'll find out. But yeah, no, that is exciting, because it's been really hard. If you're just getting into disc golf like we are, it's really hard, and you start doing a little bit of research and you figure out, okay, I want to get this disc or that disc. And right now, nothing has been available. The factories just can't turn them out fast enough. There's so many new people getting into this sport. As a result of the pandemic, I'm sure it was one of the things that we could do for a long time. And, I started playing in November. You can almost do it year round here. And you mentioned La Fortune Park. If anybody wants to give it a try, or just go check it out at La Fortune Park. There's always quite a few people there playing. And watching them play, it's a lot of fun. I guess we went a little longer than we wanted to about disc golf. It's a big weekend.
Yeah, well, if nobody stopped listening by now, I'm sure they have after that crap. But maybe they'll go to YouTube and watch some of the stuff those people pull off. It's pretty incredible. And for you, you're going to be traveling on business for the next week or so. So hopefully we can pull off our first podcast with one of us being out of the country.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out the setup now. I can't promise it's going to sound the same, but I'm going to give it a try on the technical end of things, but we'll see.
Yeah, no, looking forward to it. It'll be something different. And quickly, before we get going here, by the time this episode drops, we may know who will be in the Stanley Cup finals. Who do you have? And listen, despite your delusions, the Sabres are not in the playoffs anymore. Well, actually, they never were. But seriously, who do you have?
Well, the Leafs really never were either. So there you go. But Sabres do have the first overall pick.
Again.
Well, anyway, we're not going to go there. But the hockey has been amazing. Other than maybe last night's game, I did watch most of it. And, Tampa just put a beat down on the Islanders last night. So it'll be interesting to see if the Islanders can come back from that. But before last night, both series were tied 2-2. So we can't really ask for any better hockey. It just feels a little bit weird to be watching it at this time of year, and we still have a whole other series to go. So we're going to be into July watching the Stanley Cup Finals, which is great. Watching it kind of on an outdoor TV, that sort of adds to the experience. I'm really enjoying it. So I guess if you're making me make a pick, I'm going to go with Tampa. But honestly, all four teams, I think, are very deserving. How about you?
Tampa and who?
As a Canadian, I'd like to see Montreal get themselves there. Vegas would be a great story too, though. And, honestly, that series is tough. I guess if I have to pick, I'm going to go with Vegas.
Yeah, for me, of course, it's hard for me to say that a Leaf fan would root for the Habs, but I was actually hoping they'd get past Vegas, but I think the last game when they could have went up 3-1, but they didn't. Now it's tied 2-2. I think that it's going to be Vegas now. So I think it's also going to be Vegas and Tampa. I think that last night's game wasn't a real indication of how good or bad the Islanders are, but I do think that the cream will rise to the top there, and it will be Tampa and Vegas.
So how about your overall pick to win it all?
For me, Vegas is, they're new, but they're no underdog in my opinion. And, I guess in my nasty little way, I'd love to see Vegas get beat.
Yeah, I don't know if they have enough scoring. Their forwards haven't really been putting that puck in the net. So, yeah.
Well, it's funny you said that because watching the game the other night with Tyler, I said to him, when your star scorer is Alex Pietrangelo, I think you're in trouble. And he's a great player, but I think if he's the guy that stirs the pot, I think as you move along here, that's not gonna be very good for them.
Yeah. And who do you think's gonna be in net for Vegas tonight?
Fleury.
You think they're gonna put Fleury? Have they announced it and you're just telling me what you heard on the radio?
No, I just think they're going back with him. So when this drops on Thursday, we'll have to see, when people are listening, see who played for Vegas on Tuesday night.
You know what? I think so too. And I hope they do go back with Fleury. He got him there. I think he deserves the opportunity. He was sort of the face of Vegas ever since they've been in the league now. So I really hope so. And, Robin Leonard let me down big time when he was in Buffalo. So yeah. I've always liked Fleury.
Yeah, me too. I think everybody likes Fleury. So we'll see.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting. Well, this was fun. It's a little different, but it was fun. It's good to get caught up and bring people up to speed a little bit, talk a little bit about what's happening in the race world, not just about one topic. I want to thank Mark Rinaldi again for joining us and giving us an update, and safe travels to you next week, pal.
Oh, thanks, Alex. I appreciate it. It's going to be nice to get back into my work routine a little bit with the travel, and hopefully by the time I come back across the border, I won't have to self-quarantine. At least that's the plan. And anyway, if you're looking to follow us, please do so on Facebook. Search for Wingnut Sports to join our page. And you can also find us at Wingnut Sports on both Instagram and Twitter. And don't forget to visit our website at wingnutsports.com and be sure to check out our show notes for more information. And don't forget to like and follow us. I always forget that.
That's okay. Yeah, absolutely. You know what? The response that we've had, we're going to reflect on this. I think we said it at the start a little bit, but the response we've had from our listenership, and I think the key is that they have liked somewhat what they've heard and they've shared the post, which is the key for us to grow. And hopefully more and more people will catch on to Driver in Deep podcast. That's key for us for sure.
And I guess just before you say goodbye to everybody, we're going to talk a little bit more about this, but I think I can speak on your behalf, Alex. Pretty thrilled with the results we have so far, the number of listeners that we have for the podcast, and the engagement that we've had, mostly on Facebook. It's easier, to manage one platform, but we're there on Twitter and on Instagram as well. But we want to make it better. And we've talked about a number of ideas to try to do that. And in the next couple of weeks, I think we're probably going to get a little bit more into some of those details and what we're going to do, because, it's important that we keep growing, our audience, that our audience enjoys what we do. So if you have any feedback for how we can get better, please send us an email to wingnutsports@gmail.com or interact with us online. We'd love to hear your thoughts, hear what you like about it, and if there's anything you don't like about our podcast. So please do that, and look for a little more information coming up in the next episode or two about that.
Yeah, for sure. This has been the Driver in Deep podcast with your hosts, Mark and Alex. Thanks for listening. Have a great week, everyone.
We're wide open sideways. All right, you're clear. The talk is cheap. You're clear on that. We got the foot to the floor. There's only driver in deep.